Hi, it's Sue Greenwald here with Awakened Stories. I'm here today with Deanna Carr with the Mystical Moonlight Channel. Hey, Deanna, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. We had done a couple of videos, maybe a month or two ago, about Jack and the Beanstalk. Is that a real story? Which is it's what you told us was fascinating.
hmm
But I got thinking, there's a movie called Jack and the Giant Slayer that came out, let's say 10, 15 years ago. It wasn't a
hmm
bad movie at all, but it stimulated a lot of questions after we did the truth of the story. So here's the questions. Are the giants are portrayed as cannibals, like they're eating humans, they're bad, they're nasty, and all of that. I mean, I know it's hard to say is one race good or bad, but would you say giants are bad like that, that they're against humans?
No, I mean, now they're probably not loving humans,
Yeah.
but for the most part, they didn't eat people. They were, actually a very kind species, even though they were larger. Um, think about it this way. Whenever somebody wants to start a war, wants to start an issue, the easiest way to get it going is by saying the other person is the bad guy, right? Because then everybody's, oh yeah, they're horrible. We
Right,
can't have them around.
right,
And then once you throw in, hey, they're eating people, yeah, people would be scared.
right,
And when you're scared, you do things that harm others.
right,
So
right,
they used these tactics to get people to be on board with wiping out species.
right,
I mean, they still use this tactic.
right, right. And we're seeing photos of well, I'm going to just say 10 feet tall people, extremely tall people. Let's just say they're from the 1800s. I mean, we know that that civilization is not what we've been told, but
hmm
so we're seeing that there were extremely tall humans, but there are various sizes of giants. We're seeing their skeletons and their bones all the time. So they are a real species. Obviously, there's different species within what we would call giant, right? But they're
Yes.
not all bad, is what we're trying to say here, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So in this movie, there's a gold ring that they're kind of fighting over, but whoever has the ring gets to control the giants. Like they all have to do whatever the ring bearer says. So that's what the whole movie, there's a fight over this ring, okay? Is that a thing? Is there something similar like that?
I wouldn't consider it like a ring bearer, but there is usually like every species has a leader. Usually, if they don't, they start to go crazy. They do what they want. I mean, even now, there's not really no leader. But if you have a leader, there tends to be a little more structure because you have somebody to look up to, right? You know what's good, what's bad. They do have that, but it's not in the form of a ring. Usually, it's in the form of what they would consider wealth. Um, and their wealth is a lot different than what we consider. It doesn't have to do with gold. Yes, they do have that stuff, but their wealth was knowledge. They were actually very intelligent creatures, and still are. But they would go off of the knowledge. Like whoever could, be more logical would be the leader. And it wasn't about size, it wasn't about strength or anything like that. They did go off of knowledge.
Okay. Okay. So
Mhm.
whoever was the smartest and the most creative and authoritative would be the leader.
Yeah, and
All right.
usually they didn't go off of age. So like the smartest person might not always be the oldest with the most wisdom, let's say. It would go off of, they would have a few different categories that they have to like prove themselves in a sense. Um, and it would go in different categories of like, empathy. Like it would go in the category of, okay, if we're going through this struggle, what will we do? So they ask questions based off of that,
Ah,
versus just like, nowadays it's like, how do you run the country? I don't like random questions like that. They were more logistical with their thinking and more about how they would keep people happy.
okay. All right. I saw a video the other day of there was a cave. I don't actually remember where it was right now, but there was a guy that saw a giant in the doorway of the cave and he moved and
Hmm.
all that. And it was hard to get a size for it, but he was a very big person. Let's just put it that way. So we
Yeah.
know that they're out there, they're in inner earth, they are hiding for the most part.
Hmm.
And again, our society whips up a frenzy, like anything that's different, anything that they want us to be aggressive toward, they create these stories, right? And these
Yeah.
public opinions. That's why these points in history, these things are so important to expose, because we're seeing the agenda through time and time again of how we've been purposely lied to, right? And
Yeah.
that creates a public opinion, and then we take action based on that opinion.
Yes.
All right, back to the gold ring in this movie. Um, at the end of the movie, they melt it down and they end up putting it into a crown, which, like, they kind of fast forward hundreds of years, and it looks like it ends up in the British monarchy crown, the crown
Hmm.
jewel crown that we're all
Yeah.
familiar with. Is that just symbolism? Is that just symbolism? Like it just is odd how they did that.
It's not just symbolism. So, I mean, like I said before, we are told giants are gone, giants no longer exist, or some just, say it's just, fairy tales. But what if not only were they hunted off, but what if some of them were enslaved, right? I mean, you have a massive being that can hold thousands of pounds. It can do things that we can't do. Um, what if you could get a few? And what if you had a big enough space underground to hide them? Not
Oh,
in inner earth, but in between inner earth.
okay. Like in a tunnel.
Hmm.
Okay.
So the symbolism in that is specifying that, England has them in their underground tunnels.
Okay. And they're using them as slaves.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Not happy about that. Okay, next question. All right, so again, we're talking about one fairy tale, but
Mm.
the Brothers Grimm have this book of fairy tales that you're supposed to read to the kids, right? All the kids love fairy tales, but when you examine these, like every single one of them are really dark, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Very dark stuff. And again, I guess my question is, were those stories true?
Yeah, they were.
All right. And do you think we should talk about the individual stories here and there, or as we're
We
told to, right?
Yeah, I would say we'd probably do individual because I mean there's just a lot of the I mean even if you go into one story, there's a lot of detail within it. So it's
Yeah.
not just going to be an overall view.
Yeah.
But they were based off of real events.
Hmm.
And most of them are on the darker side. I mean, not all of them, but the way that they've spent them they tend to be more on the darker side, or at some space and time, they were dark,
Right.
if that makes
And
sense. That sounded
when
weird.
you read these, you're like, why would I read this to a child? Like this is like nasty stuff. And they're not
Yeah.
even good stories, to be honest, but we
No,
are
and they've
taught.
they've changed them so that way they're a little more appealing to kids. So that's why
Yeah.
people read the stories to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of them were on the darker side. Um, you also have to think like when you are in a instance of on that negative side, when you're like,
Mhm.
what else I have to lose? That is also some people's moments to open up their potential. So some of these, now they keep them more on the darker side, but some of them, they were going through these dark moments, but they're able to release that fear of I can't do it type mentality, and they were actually allowed themselves to get to that next level, either through gifts, through powers. through a mindset shift pretty much. So some of them they might sound dark, but if you look into it more and get the details, some of them were meant to stay dark, but they flipped out of it.
All right,
If that
interesting,
makes sense.
interesting. So I'm not just going to go through the book. Like my first instinct was like, I'm going to get a book from the library and go through every story. I'm not doing that because we're told when we do these videos, we're told what
Hmm.
to talk about, meaning like I'm like I'll get a strong impulse. We have to talk about this topic. And then my brain will start working, the questions pop out, and whatever happens, happens, right? It's
Yep.
pretty interesting. So
Yeah.
that's how we're going to approach it. But for everyone that's ever asked that question, they're real stories and they're super dark, and the stories have been changed, right? So,
Yes.
all right. I think that's it for now. I just wanted to like clarify that whole control of giants thing. Like it,
Hmm.
I actually liked the movie, but in hindsight, after we had talked about Jack and the Beanstalk, I was like, there's a lot of manipulation of the story there, right?
Oh, of course. I mean, that happens in everything. Every
Yeah.
story gets manipulated
Yep.
to make somebody look good.
Yep.
And usually the person that looks good is the person that's in the wrongdoing.
Yep.
I mean, we've seen that time and time again
Yeah.
because think about it. People watch movies more than they read their history books. So they're going to get them like, oh, we did such a good job. We did all this. We saved ourselves. When in reality, it was different. And
Right.
for those that don't know, the government pays people to make these movies about historical facts that are inaccurate.
Right.
So there you
Right.
go.
Yeah, we know that. And also look, like we're even doing it now with animals, okay? Like last week or so, a truck full of monkeys, lab monkeys, okay,
Oh
that
yeah.
have lived their life in a lab, okay, tipped over them. Some of the monkeys got out, and of course they killed them all. They said they were all heavily diseased and all that, and they killed them all. And I was like, they're just making that up because they wouldn't be taking diseased monkey to another site, you know? But look
Well,
at
yeah.
we've
But
got
one got out.
yeah, and a lady shot it.
Okay. I didn't hear that part.
She was afraid. But like look what we're doing to the bears, the wolves, like all sorts of animals because they're bad. They're really bad. And they just are killing them off. Like they influence us to be afraid of those creatures or whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
And
Yep.
that's just a really teeny little example. But look what they've done through time to get us all riled up against whatever species it is.
Yeah.
Not good. All right. Well, enough ranting and raving. Thank you so much, Dee, for your time. I appreciate it.
Of
All
course.
right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.